Welcome back to the United in Focus YouTube channel. I'm not Dale O'Donnell. I'm Dan Coombs. I'm stepping in this week. Joining me is Sean Fisher, Vatsal Gupta, and Adnan Riaz. We will be talking about Man United's summer transfer window, just gone, all wrapped up, and the magical 3-2 win over Burnley. So we're going to be taking a look at everything, grading the window, and asking, is Ruben Amorim now safe? We're going to dig right in with the transfer recap. So, right, let's go on. So, where we are, we've managed to sign 5 first-team players: Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, Benjamin Sesko, at a push, Diego Leon's a first-team player, and Senna Lamens. So how do we feel about that? I'll circle back to myself in a minute, but let's kind of go around the room. Sean, how are you feeling about the 5 incomings, and what would you grade United's window? You know, going back to the kind of school grades, A being the top, A+ being the top grade we could give.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that we're coming off the back of a season where we finished 15th with no European football. I think heading into the summer, we were all dreading it, thinking, oh God, what's going to happen here? So actually to get 5 signings, to get some incredible Premier League proven players, to get some exciting players with high potential, I'm going to give us a B grade, I think. I think there's room for improvement, but I think we should be happy with what we've got. I think most of us will agree that maybe a midfielder would have pushed us to the A star kind of range. And will we pay the price for not getting a midfielder this season? Potentially, but I think we've got to be happy with what we've got, and especially the caliber of players we managed to get.
I don't disagree in the midfielder. Vatsal, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think the midfielder remains a big hole, but I've liked that they zeroed in on Carlos Baleba, and then when they couldn't get him, they didn't just try to plug a gap. So that tells me that they're thinking long term, which bodes well for us.
We have seen it in the past, haven't we? Where managers end up setting for their second-rate signing, and it's cost, or gone and overpaid, as we saw with Anthony, where we overpaid double the price to get the first one, which just sets him up for failure. So yeah, that's been a problem for us in the past. But the problem with United is that tomorrow never comes, does it? So you wait for next summer. Will Ruben Amorim? We can get into that, but will he live to regret not going all out for some kind of midfielder?
I think if there was ever a season to take a step back and reassess for the long term, it was this one, because we don't have European competition. And the midfield as it stands has looked vulnerable, but I think it will be good enough to at least get us into Europe, because the underlying stats, all those stats say that we are doing really well. We just need that finishing touch. And I don't think Carlos Baleba is going to put the ball back in the back of the net. So I think we should be fine this season without a midfielder. But yeah, overall, I would say B, just like Sean said. A midfielder pushes it to A+, and without a goalkeeper, it would have been C. So glad that got sorted out on red line day.
Yes, I certainly hope you're right. Adnan, how about yourself? Are you feeling a bit more positive, negative, about same in line?
A bit of both, to be honest. I think there's positives and negatives from it. I think a rating of a fair B would be right. I think you could even drop to a C, because I think that whilst the signings have been great, like 5 very solid signings, it's kind of raised issues in terms of Ineos not bringing some of these players in earlier. So you see like Benjamin Sesko is now trying to catch up with the rest of the players, trying to integrate himself in. Like, he would have been brilliant to have a full pre-season with the team. And it feels like Ineos started the window strong, bringing Matheus Cunha in. He's had a full pre-season with everyone. But then later on, we've dragged out the Brian Mbeumo saga, and he's coming a little bit later. You've had Sesko coming a bit later. You've had a goalkeeper coming on deadline day. So I think, like, essentially for United, they needed to be a bit more fast, efficient, and getting these signings in so Ruben Amorim can work with him, because this was his first pre-season with them, and they're really getting used to his tactical system. And I still think that the cracks are there. As the other guys have mentioned, the midfielder is a big one. Not going for Carlos Baleba this summer. Does his price increase next summer? Do more clubs come in for him? It seemed like United were interested in him, that there was, we could connect dots there, but they never actually went for him. And it kind of makes a big question mark about, is Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro going to last the entire season? And I'm not too sure about that, unless Casemiro has, as the prime of his life again somehow.
I think his form's going to kind of chop and change, isn't it, through the season? It was a great point. I mean, usually we don't get any players in before pre-season. So to some degree, it was a little bit of a change to get a couple of players in. But yeah, when you leave things out till the last minute with goalkeeper, I mean, we could have had Senna Lamens in from start of summer in for pre-season. I mean, Anana got injured early, didn't he? So let me just pull you up on your grade there, and then what you giving B?
I think a B would be fair. I think an A would be definitely, with a midfielder, and I think it would have been United's best, transfer window in recent memory. But I think that midfielder was just there were so many options there. We were linked with so many players, and Baleba was a big one, and it just feels like a missed opportunity right now.
I think you guys are all spot on. I'm going to try and be a little bit more positive and say a B+, because I really like Brian Mbeumo. I think he's going to be possibly player of the best signing of the season in the Premier League, just in terms of value and output. He's already scored 2 goals. I'm quite impressed with that. So let's try and push for B+, I think.
I also think in terms of the outgoings as well, obviously our player sales haven't been great. So I think to sell who we sold, I mean, the numbers aren't great. I think the bomb squad whole idea has kind of forced us into a corner. But I think in terms of the outgoings, we can see there's been an improvement in player sales. So I think that's got to be taken into account as well.
So, yeah, player sales is quite an interesting one. So, I mean, we tried the nicey nice approach last summer, didn't we? Where we invited Jadon Sancho in pre-season, let him miss the crucial penalty in the Community Shield, and still ended up having to loan him out. So I think they felt like, let's try the opposite this summer. Kind of repeat what Chelsea did with their bomb squad idea. And it worked in terms of they got everybody out, but I think they've had to make compromises on pretty much everything. So Garnacho was valued, I think, by United at around 70 million, gone for about 40. Anthony, we really wanted about 35 and ended up having to take 20. Højlund, I think we would have loved to actually be able to sell, and we've had to sometimes take a loan, the same with Rashford. So it's not great. I mean, if you were racing player sales overall, I'll probably give it a C. If we do quick go around, speed round on that one in terms of player sales, what would you give Vatsal?
Yeah, I'd probably give that a B as well, because we have to remember that they're still shifting out Glazer era contracts. So they would be a pain to deal with for any club, let alone a club that has the reputation of Manchester United. So I'll still give them a B, that they just managed to get them out.
And Adnan?
I think a D would be more reasonable at this point, because I don't think Ineos has covered itself in glory with the late transfers. Again, that kind of ties in with the idea that you've had players coming in late for Ruben Amorim. They've come in late into the transfer window, and then you've had players going out late as well. So like we were all looking at all these options in terms of Garnacho, Anthony, seeing players leave right at the last moment, and we know that these people can carry a transfer fee. So, Garnacho's kind of a bit of a success story in terms of a high transfer fee, compared to like David Beckham back in the day, but it still feels well short of the 70 million that you mentioned before. And that's where United have kind of tripped themselves over. The same with Rashford, for example, valued at 80 million a couple of years ago. We've basically now trying to offload him the first route that we can to a different club. And it's now kind of like, if he does well at Barcelona, he's going to go. If he doesn't, and best of luck to Marcus Rashford where he goes with Barcelona. But I think that I think Ineos needs to really strengthen its grip in the transfer window and sell players at a high value, and then we can kind of reinvest those options, because had Garnacho gone for 70 million, Carlos Baleba could have been on the table, because there's money to fund into a midfielder, for example.
It was very, that's it. Getting that money in, later on is so late to try and pull off a £100 million deal with 2 days to go, isn't it? It's difficult. Sean, how are you feeling about the player sales?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what our rivals are doing, it certainly looks more like a C or a D, because when you look at Chelsea making £300 million in the summer from player sales, obviously they've got a whole army of players to sell. But when we're looking at Rashford potentially being sold with £26 million buy clause, Garnacho for 40, it's not up to scratch. Obviously, we've kind of been put into a corner with this whole bomb squad situation. That's fair enough. Hopefully it'll improve as the windows go by. But for this summer in particular, I think it's probably a C.
So separate questions for all of you, just sticking with yourself, Sean. Do you think we'll go back for Carlos Baleba in January, or do you think it's just one for next summer?
I'd love to see us go back in January, but I think it's more realistic that we'll go back for Baleba in the summer. But the sounds of it, Brighton really don't want to sell until next summer. I can't see them letting him go halfway through his season, especially if they don't have a replacement already sorted. Brighton we know are fantastic with their recruitment, and they're planning ahead. So I think it'll be more likely next summer. But as Adnan mentioned before, will other clubs be there? Will be challenged for that? It's concerning.
I think with the January one, something's either going to have to go horribly wrong for us, or something go horribly wrong for Brighton for them to want to have to sell. So that's a concern in itself. Big thing was goalkeeper. Senna Lammens coming in. Vatsal, you wrote a great piece for the site on his style of play. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I wanted Emi Martinez when he was linked to us, but that was mainly because of the intangibles, like the leadership, confidence, Premier League proven nature of him. But the more I've seen of Senna Lammens, the more I like about him, because Ineos have got this whole Project 2028 thing going, right? So to be a contender in that year, they have to start developing from now. And there is no better season to develop a goalkeeper than the one right now because there's no European competitions. So the clear on Manchester United is not the easiest on the toughest days, but this is as easy as it will get for Sen Lamens. And he can do both. Like, we bought Andre Onana for his ball playing abilities, and then we had him hoofing the ball up like David De Gea. And then he couldn't stop the shots either. Let's not go into that. I'll start a rant on Andre Onana. But as far as Sen Lamens goes, like, if he can do both, he's already a very good shot stopper. So that's the basic sorted. As long as he can do that, he's already an upgrade on our current options. The ball playing can come with time. So I'm really excited.
The key really is going to be temperament, isn't it? And that's what that's where I think Emiliano Martinez, we knew we were going to get that right temperament. He's a bit of he's a character who would have adapted very well, I think. Adnan, do you think that was a kind of mistake not going for him, or do you like the Lamens still?
I think it's a bit of a both. It is really a coin toss situation because, as you said, Emiliano Martinez reminds me of a bit of Matthias Cunha. He has a bit of like swagger. He has a bit of bravado. You know, you've seen his antics at the World Cup, and he's got confidence, and it's a Premier League proven talent again there that's been kind of missed. But I also understand the age factor. But, you know, with the new keeper coming in, you know, it kind of goes back to that line where Gary Neville and other pundits have said, you know, that is one of the hardest positions to play at Manchester United, and he is going to face immediate pressure. And now Ruben Amorim sitting there thinking, do I start him against Manchester City, against Chelsea? He is not coming in an easy task. And obviously Belgium, you know, experts, media experts, club legends have spoken very highly of him. He's apparently very good in the box and also is able to command his area. He's good at set pieces, a good shot stopper. But, you know, these are big questions because, you know, only recently I just saw Gary Lineker say that he has a great record in Belgium, but does that translate to the English Premier League? And that is the truth, because every keeper has had that difficulty with Manchester United. You know, you only have to look back at David De Gea's tough run to start with, and De Gea would be the first to admit that this is what happens when you become Manchester United goalkeeper. So I think Martinez would have been the safer option. I know he's error prone, but I think just because of the experience he has, he would have really just immediately come in and replaced Onana and Bayende. But now you kind of have three keepers there and you're going to choose which one to pick. And if you put the new keeper into the line, this could backfire very quickly and you might have to withdraw him and give him time to kind of build his confidence.
I think what we need is for Martinez to drop a few clangers in the month of September, just to take a bit of pressure off. And if he goes in and sticks in a few worldies, I think the whole media is going to be, you know, oh, we should have signed him, and pressure's on Lamens. So yeah, let's hope he doesn't have a good month. So I think we're pretty happy with the transfer window as we are. We can kind of, midfielder aside, we kind of move back into the stirring win over Burnley. I mean, you know, that is going to be one we look back on. And it's either going to go one of two ways. It's going to be Ruben Amorim's kind of Mark Robbins moment, like it saved him, or it's just going to be one where, a bit like that 2-1 win over Brentford a couple of seasons ago, where Scott McTominay scored 2 in the last minute, where, yeah, it saved Erik ten Hag at the time, but it just prolonged things. So, you know, was that a relief or a warning? It's hard to say, but kind of just let's recap. So Casemiro scored the opener. Brian Mbeumo scored after, you know, to put us 2-1 up just after conceding. And then we had an Altay Bayern error. I mean, do you guys think that was the last straw for Bayern, Sean?
You'd like to think so. I mean, we're fed up of goalkeeping errors this season. We've seen Onana and Bayern just completely shattered confidence, which is why we've brought Lamens in on deadline day. But with Manchester City and Chelsea up next, do we throw him straight in, or is it going to be Bayern that starts? For me, I think we might not see Lamens until that Brentford game. I think we might have to cope with Bayern for 1 or 2 more matches, because I think they might want to protect Lamens early on. But at the same time, we signed him to be our future number one, and he's going to have to play these big matches at some point. We could throw him straight into the mix. I'd prefer to see Lamens than Bayern personally.
Yeah, I mean, City are going to have Donnarumma in goal as well, which is going to be an interesting contrast to whoever plays. So looking back to the big, you know, the big win over Burnley. I keep calling it big win, but it felt like that. What were your thoughts on the penalty, Vatsal?
Yeah, I think if they overrule the penalty in the first half because Mount was tugging his t-shirt, then I think you have to give the penalty in the second half, because Ahmad was having his shirt pulled as well. So the sustained pulling motion, no matter where it begins, if it ends in the penalty area, it's a penalty. So I don't think it would have even been a talking point had it not been United at the end of receiving the penalty. But that's just the case it is with United, always a talking point. I think that's a no-brainer decision, really.
It had to be given, didn't it? I mean, watching it back, Old Trafford was definitely silent as Bruno was stepping up to take that. I mean, how confident were you he was going to score, Adnan?
It was either he misses and he gets taken off, and then Brian Mbeumo takes over the penalty kick taker, and Old Trafford erupts into a noise of just like disbelief. Well, because of Bruno Fernandes, I believe that he's going to take it. I think the pressure on him must have been immense. It must have been even more so like Marcus Rashford PSG style, because of like the expectation of that game, for Ruben Amorim, for just Manchester United's season so far. And I was quite confident that you'd step up and do it, because that's the one constant with Bruno Fernandes. Yes, he can be criticised for his performances, but the one thing that's always interesting with the criticisms with Bruno Fernandes is the fact that he's always performed at such a high level that when his form dips just a slight bit, he's the first to be target for criticism. And yes, it's fair sometimes, but I think with that, he showed once again why he is so important to United. Like, we could have taken the money from Saudi Arabia had he gone, and if he wanted to make that move, but the fact that he stayed, he could be a redeeming factor later in the season, because he does step up later in the seasons as well.
I hope he does. So, I mean, I just want to do kind of a temperature check on how you guys were feeling at 2-2, because I'm usually quite positive, but, when we're at 2-2, 88th minute against Burnley, going to be on for 2 points out of possible 9. We've got City and Chelsea up next. Some dark thoughts did enter my head, the R word. Are we going to be battling relegation this season or something ridiculous? Are we have to go for a sacking? And then suddenly we win, and, we're in 8th place and we're looking at Europe again. Where were you guys?
It definitely felt like there was a goal in it in that last 10 minutes. We didn't know which way it was going to go. It felt like if Burnley score, Amorim's gone, we're back to last season's nightmares, as you say. Or if we score, is it a corner turned? I mean, I hate saying that. We say that so often, don't we? But it does feel like potentially now we finally have some building blocks. There is something to be positive about.
Like, even I'm going to sound like Ty from Arsenal Fan TV a bit, but the thing is, in the long-term, performances always match the results. And we haven't really performed badly in any game, bar Grimsby maybe. So even had we drawn that game, I would have been confident that we have to start winning eventually. As long as the confidence levels don't dip, we have to start winning eventually.
There are some interesting numbers going around in terms of United having the most shots at goal of any Premier League team, having the best expected goals tally. So we are playing well, and 4 points out of 9 doesn't really reflect how well we've played. But it is interesting, I say we're 8th, we're above City. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Guardiola actually heading into the next game. A draw, would suit us better, but we're going to have to win one of those next 2 games against City and Chelsea, in my view, just to kind of keep a bit of momentum going, because then otherwise you slip into that bottom half of the table, and that's not where we want to be. So just a kind of a Amorim check. Are you guys confident that he's going to be? I mean, I like him. I think he just needs to get some results on the board. Adnan, how are you feeling about the boss?
Yeah, he is a very interesting puzzle piece, Ruben Amorim, because if you're going to bring him in as a young, ambitious manager, you have to back him. So Ineos are in a corner now. They can't sack him, because anything is regression at this point, because he plays a very specific style. He has sold certain players. Yes, you could bring a manager in and they could play 4-3-3 if he gets sacked, but you've essentially sold a majority of the wingers off, and Ruben Amorim is building that system in a certain way where you have to put the foundation for the project in place. And I think as long as they support him and give him, time, he will succeed with that. And I think there are a lot of things that need to come into play. I think Ruben Amorim needs to change his behavior a little bit, because he becomes really almost Bruno Fernandes reactionary, Portuguese style, where it's like, something happens and he just explodes, and it's like, just, keep your nerve, calm down, like, see what Sir Alex Ferguson's done in the past, see what other managers have done in the past. I think he, sometimes reminds me of Jose Mourinho, the way he reacts, where it's like he can just have an outburst, and it's like that doesn't help his situation. But I think he is a manager that can be supported. But I think there are bigger issues within the club where they do need to support him, because I think one of the points I've seen, which is one of the most fascinating so far, obviously Wayne Rooney has been in the has his son in the academy, Kai, and he made a point about the fact that the academy doesn't play free at the back, like their formations aren't set free in the back. And it's like Ruben Amorim has built a system which is going to play a 3-man back line. So it's like Ineos need to look at the other structural problems, structural issues within the club, and support him. So at the moment, with the season starting, I'm kind of fine with him. I think he's just been a little bit reactionary, and I think the Grimsby result has really been that curveball that's been thrown into United season. Had that result not happened and we got the results that we did now, I think the pressure would be nowhere near on him.
Yeah, we don't want to mention Grimsby on this podcast. Sean, are you positive about Amorim?
I am. I think I agree with Adnan. I think Ineos have to go all in. I don't think there's anywhere else to go, to be honest, at this point. We've kind of committed to him. I love the emotional side of him and that passionate side of him, even after that Grimsby defeat. He's saying what we're all thinking, right? I mean, like, there's no point in hiding that. So I am all for Amorim. Hopefully, he needs to get past these next 2 games, hopefully build a bit of momentum, and I'm still confident there's a good season ahead.
And Vatsal, spinning forward, which one change do you think United need to make to the team when they play City and Chelsea?
Probably won't get Kobe Mainoo against City, but yeah, for a bit more control in midfield, it wouldn't really be a bad shout to get him in. Or maybe bring in Mazraoui as a wider centre-back, put Lenny Yoro in the middle to get more pace out wide. That's the only thing I can see.
Please grade our window in the comments, like, subscribe, notifications on, and let's enjoy the break.